Hello! I'm Kimberly, MD, neurologist and sleep expert, here to help you, my sleep warrior, achieve amazing sleep with science-backed education and expert advice. Today, Lorraine asks, is melatonin okay to take if I have sleep apnea and I use CPAP? Well, Lorraine, good question. In general, melatonin does not affect your breathing. So if you have sleep apnea and you're using your CPAP, there should be no problems there. That being said, you want to start low and increase the dose only as needed. And if you take it, say, in the middle of the night, you just want to make sure that if you're feeling too groggy in the morning, you be sure to not drive or operate any heavy machinery. Thanks for your question. Stephanie asks, is a mandibular advancement device a substitute for CPAP? And is it used alone or with CPAP? And what are the success rates for moderate sleep apnea? Then she goes on to ask if she wants to test how well it's working, then would she repeat a sleep study with the device in order to find out? So multi-part question there from Stephanie about mandibular advancement devices, which are, look like this is one type. And these devices are used to bring the lower jaw forward in order to open up the back of your throat and increase the size of your airway so you can breathe better while you're sleeping. So yes, mandibular advancement devices are a substitute and an alternative option for treatment of obstructive sleep apnea besides using a CPAP. So that being said, it's generally recommended for more mild to moderate sleep apnea, and there's no sort of one size fits all as far as success rates because it really depends. But a rule of thumb may be that your overall AHI usually drops by about half. So it isn't as complete a therapy as a CPAP, but for many people it works very well and it can be less cumbersome and easier to tolerate. So about the part that's using it alone or in combination with CPAP, it is possible to use both an oral appliance and CPAP therapy together. This is called none other than combination therapy. So if your airway is very crowded and you use a mandibular advancement device, then you may be able to use lower CPAP settings, which may make CPAP easier to tolerate. So it is an up-and-coming therapy to do this combination therapy and makes sort of both devices easier to tolerate for people. So the last part of your question, if you want to test how well it's working, then should you get a home apnea test done in order to find out? The answer is yes. So nothing more needs to be said about that. Put the device in, get all of your treatment together, then you can do a repeat study and see how well it's working. You just want to be sure that you're sleeping in all different positions, your side as well as your back. Thanks for asking. David asks, is it safe to use mouth tape if you have asthma? I have mild sleep apnea and I have oxygen with my CPAP machine. Well, David, I really cannot answer this question for all people. This is something that you would need to ask your specific provider about. I'm going to give some general advice here, but not specific medical advice for any individual. That needs to come from your provider. That being said, asthma has all different ranges, mild, moderate, and severe. If you're on oxygen at night, I would guess that your asthma is probably more severe. As long as you are wearing your CPAP and you can breathe okay through your nose and that air is getting through, then it's generally okay to keep your mouth closed, whether that be with mouth tape or something like the Somniseal, or if there's, using a full face mask, whatever it is. If you're getting that air through and you have that oxygen as well, then mouth tape is usually not going to impair your ability to breathe. Again, talk to your provider. Gail asks, is it okay to occasionally reuse the water in your water chamber if you poured way too much the night before and you don't want to waste it? Good question, Gail. I hate waste. That being said, that water is pennies and it's pretty abundant. So you can get the distilled water for $1 for a big jug. So To keep everything clean, I would say you should exchange that out every night. That being said, you did say occasionally reuse the water, so I will say yes, occasionally it is okay to reuse your water, especially if it's not in a really hot environment where there might be things growing in there that could then be further blown into your lungs. And I wouldn't go more than one night or so using that same water. So, good question. Thanks for all the questions today. You can ask at our link below where you can put in your questions that I will answer every week here on Ask the Expert. Thanks for joining me.